Hello. All right, here we go. We are live. Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. And today is Tuesday, 2 p.m. And you're here hanging out with the homeschooling, empowered homeschooling mamas. So we've got here Greta, and we've got here Carol, and me, Xabelina, aka Lena, because Xabelina is a very difficult name. I know that. I don't want to complicate your lives. So we're missing Katie, and she is in England now, right? Is that where she said she was? She's in England in the cutest little cottage, okay? And she was saying that her internet connection was a little staticky, so she's gonna try to make it today. And also we've got Kimberly, who she's out in a Renaissance fair, so that's pretty cool. You got the history going on for the kids there. But today's topic, guys, is dun dun dun, the dreaded how do your children socialize, and dun dun dun, removing and kicking out the stereotypes of the homeschoolers or unschoolers or unconventional schoolers. We've all got the stereotypes. We all think, oh, there goes those homeschoolers with the glasses, and they're all so smart, and they don't talk to anybody because they're not socialized. So we're about to kick that to the curb, man, because we're cool peoples. So, yeah. Anyways, with that being said, oh, there's Katie Spencer. She just joined us now. Hi, Katie. Hi, Katie. Coming at you again from a tiny little cottage, a quaint cottage. I just love Katie. All right. Anyway, so some of the questions that I have for you ladies. Okay. So let's get to this. Let's get to this because we gotta really nip this in the butt, man. All right. So today's topic, Katie. Hey, Katie. Can you hear me, Katie? Okay. I guess not. We'll just move on. We love you, Katie. You can join in with us.
Hiya.
Hey, Katie. How you doing, Katie? So, Katie, so today's topic, oh, and she froze, but it's okay. We're going to keep going. Love us some Katie. Today's topic, Katie, today's topic. What about their socialization? And we're going to kick the stereotype to the curb, okay? People think unschoolers and homeschoolers are just, so weird and nerdy. So we're going to kick that to the curb, all right? So I got some questions for you ladies. All right, so we'll start with, boom, 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 Carol. All right, so, Carol.
Yes.
Were you at all concerned about their socialization when you decided to homeschool? Were you concerned at all? What were your thoughts on socialization?
Well, we were a little bit concerned because my daughter, who is the only one that we homeschool, is my social bug. She is my, I think, I'm trying to remember exactly, when she was 7 or 8, I don't really go to school to learn. I go to school to have friends. And so, she's I've got to have my friends, and I need to have activities, and so we were a little bit concerned with that, but we'd had some experience with some conventional homeschoolers before, so I knew that there were going to be opportunities to give her that socialization. So it was a factor in the program that we chose, but it wasn't a huge factor. And we were, she's got friends. We're in the neighborhood that we live in has a swim club. And so the first summer that we moved here, she made a ton of friends down there. So in the neighborhood and even outside our neighborhood that she's really developed good friendships with. And we're also involved in a youth group. So aside from the school activities we do, she does have plenty of socialization.
I agree. There's so many different things that we're gonna throw in here, and as far as socialization. So what about you, Greta? Were you at all concerned when you first decided, okay, I'm gonna take on this venture of homeschooling or unschooling my children? Was that a concern in the top of your mind? I do believe I did mention that on our last hangout. Yes, that was something that I had thought about even before I had kids. I knew that I wanted to be a homeschooling mom, and that was the only thing that stood out for me was the socialization part of it. And so basically, I wanted, and because I started off with one child, I knew she didn't have any siblings to. Sorry, just gonna mute you out, Katie. No offense. Katie, we love you, girl. Yeah, so so because I just had the one child, I thought, well, I want to make sure that she's socializing with somebody other than myself, because at the time I was a single mommy as well, I know, like, if any of you know, with your first, they tend to really, really want all of your attention. So I wanted to make sure that she had other little friends that she could play with. I went to play groups and things like that, but I also, at the time, was working outside of home. Once she was old enough, I got a job outside of home and found a place. I searched high and low for the best place for her to go to daycare, which ended up being a hobby farm, a Waldorf hobby farm, which was more of like a homeschool, out of home environment for her, which she then was able to develop relationships with other like-minded families, and that was important to me, to make sure that I was still able to kind of make those choices and make sure that she was being influenced by like-minded people. So, and she still to this day, even though she doesn't go there, is connected to those families and those children, and had the opportunity to develop some really strong relationships there. So, for me, that's what I did. That was my choice. And now that we have 6 kids, there's not really a worry about socialization anymore. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. You got a little village going on there. It's so cool. I think that's awesome. So
Yeah.
what about you, Katie? Was that I mean, you are, again, Miss Katie here is Miss Katie Spencer. She is actually an ex school teacher, right?
That's right. Yep, that's right.
And now she's homeschooling, or doing the unconventional schooling. So what about you? Did you was that a concern for you when you decided, I'm gonna go ahead and venture into the unconventional schooling with my kids? Was that a concern, and how did you go about that?
Yes and no. No, in the first instance, because we came to homeschooling because of the needs of one of our children. He's on the autistic spectrum. He's got Asperger's syndrome, high-functioning autism, and he doesn't really need to socialize that much. That's just the kind of person that he is. So when we decided to home educate him, it was a natural fit for him. We worried about it to the extent that we lived quite far away from where he was going to school. So the friends that he had were not necessarily friends who lived in the neighborhood. But he's quite good at getting what he needs. Our daughter, when we decided to home educate her, that was a little more challenging. But here's what I figured out. First, kids don't, in the UK, we like to say that kids aren't socialized, they're raised. So you socialize a dog, you raise a child. So for us, over the last few years, as we've been homeschooling, we get out a lot. Before we started our epic road trip, it would be very rare to find us at home. We had a home education, a homeschool co-op that we went to every week. One of my friends who lived a few doors down, she started home educating her daughter as well. And so Nairi had another homeschooling child just, a block away. We were always out and about doing things. And there's all kinds of activities that, we think that school is the only place where kids can make friends, but as everybody's already mentioned, kids are doing all kinds of stuff, from summer camp to church to, youth groups, volunteering activities, scouts, all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of places for children to make friends. Not to mention, my daughter just likes going outside and playing in the neighborhood, and so she meets all the neighborhood kids the same as anybody else does, and she just has a different schooling situation. But these days, that's not really that unusual, given how many kids go to private schools, or it's not uncommon for kids to have different situations where they are making friends who are not necessarily in their neighborhood. So it hasn't really been a problem for us at all.
Good. I find that amazing that how easily children, especially, I mean, for me, it was definitely a concern for me, because number one, before I started to homeschool, I had never, ever, ever in my entire life heard of it. I didn't even know that it existed, okay? So I grew up in Florida, and in the 27 years that I was in Florida, never heard of it. Then I came to New Jersey, and my pastor's wife was actually homeschooling her daughter. And I would go to my pastor's wife's house, and I would see that her daughter was just around. And by then, I already had my 3 children. They were in public school. My daughter was about 12 at the time. And, I saw that her daughter was just around. And I'm like, it's 12 o'clock. What's your daughter doing here? She should be in school. And she said, well, no, we homeschool. And I was like, what is that? And she said, well, she stays home, and we buy the books and whatnot. And the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, my goodness, this poor child. She is being deprived of the world around her. I was seriously thinking that. And I remember one day, I took her with me because I had to go to my daughter's school. And so we came inside the school, and now mind you, in order to get in the school, there's like this security thing that you got to go through. It looks bad, okay? And the girl had never been to school her entire life. So we're walking into the school, and you could smell the school. You could just smell the plastic. School just has a smell to it, And I said, and I asked her, and I was like, is this your first time ever going into a school? And she goes, yes, it is. And she was like 15 at the time. And I said, well, what do you think? And she goes, I'm not missing out on anything. And when she said that, I'm like, really? So that's when I started to take interest in the whole homeschooling deal. And then I started to ask her about the socialization and how does she feel about it, and what she does. And I mean, the girl was 15, and she was talking to me like if she was an adult. I had more conversation with her than I had ever had with any other 15-year-old out there. So I said, okay, this is something good. We're getting somewhere here. So as I decided that I wanted to homeschool, that was definitely one of my biggest concerns. But again, I have 3 kids, and I'm thinking in terms of socialization, these kids are going to kill themselves because they hate to socialize with each other, okay? So I was like, they're going to be here all day long with each other, and they're going to literally fight and just be so angry all day long. And it wasn't like that. It was actually the opposite. We would speak. We would have so many different things to talk about. So much so that it was just, I couldn't get them to shut up sometimes. Not that I wanted them to shut up, but they were just, talking and talking and talking, and nobody's telling them, shh, be quiet, and, get this done. And so they developed this sense of just, their communication is awesome. And now they're not afraid to talk to anybody. They'll talk to an adult, they'll talk to a child, and there's no fear there. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, I definitely I was scared of the whole socialization thing. I thought that they were going to be either weird or that they were just going to be completely angry all the time because they didn't know how to get along with each other. But it turned out to be the opposite. And so another question I have for you, Miss Carol. Miss Carol. All right, so what are some of the things that you have done to socialize them? So you said that they do, so that you take them out to, they have the youth group and stuff like that. So be a little bit more specific in that area. What are some of the things that your children do?
Well, we take the curriculum that we're using is actually through a public school, and we work with certified teachers through this school. And so for the middle school kids, 2 days a week, they have what they call in-house day, where she takes her computer. She's in a classroom with whoever decides to come. It's totally optional. We go once a week because she just likes to be around other kids. And so they work on any of their lessons that they need to work on, or they do fun learning activities together. So that's one way that we socialize during the school day. And then we have a community service club to where the kids go once a month, and they work either at the food bank, or they go to a nursing home in town, and they do special things at the holidays. They do some special things. And we have some fun activities. She's in photography club. So January, they went to the zoo. There were 5 or 6 of them together with a teacher, learning about photography. They did that at the zoo. We have a geocaching club, which she absolutely loves to do. We did that last week at one of the big parks, and she helped a little first grader. So, it's the setup that we have. She gets all types of socialization. She gets with her peers, and then she also gets to be the person that is helping the younger child, and she gets to be the example for the younger child. So those are just some specifics of what we do. And then, she has friends spend the night with her all the time. We call them the Giggle Fest because they're 11, 12, and 13, and that's what they do when they get together. They giggle all night long.
Right.
She goes to the mall. We have a setup where she can walk the mall with her friends. She has to text me every 15 minutes because mom's not allowed. So we just have found some creative ways to socialize and to give her some freedom and independence too, because that was one of my hang-ups. Was I love being with my kids. I would be with my kids 24/7 if it were at all possible. But that's not healthy for any of us. It's not possible. And so we've just found some creative ways to teach her how to be independent, because that is, sometimes can be one thing that we think that they're going to lose if we have them at home, is these independent things. So we just have to find some different ways to teach them how to be good friends, to teach them, I almost kind of hate to say the word social, but to teach them how to relate to people in general and to be independent. So those are just some of the ways that we found that within the limits of her age, that are age appropriate for her, to let her be independent and learn the social skills that she needs.
I agree 100%, Carol. And you said it. You hit the nail right on the head. I would hate to use the word social. Like, we're using the word socialization here because it's such a stereotype of, deal. But I believe that it just happens naturally, just like walking and just like learning how to talk. It just happens naturally. Sometimes you don't even have to go about setting up the environment for them. Kids are kids, man. They get in trouble all day long at school for socializing.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, I think you raised a really good point as well about coming up with creative ways. We have this idea stuck in our heads. It's drilled home to us that school is the only place where kids can have a social life or learn how to interact with other human beings. And actually, I think anybody who's come through a schooling system knows that when you get into work or you go off to college or go anywhere else outside of compulsory school, you have to actually unlearn a lot of the things that you learned in school about how to deal with people, and you have to learn new habits, because the habits that you develop as a kid in order to get by, particularly as you come through high school, where that is such a tough situation, That's not the real world.
No.
That is not what the rest of your life is going to be like. The rest of your life is not going to be like it was in high school. And actually, kids who are homeschooled, who are in multi-age groups, who are interacting with other adults in the community, they're actually having a much better real life experience about how to get along with people generally than kids who are stuck in school in age-restricted groups all day long, which is just not the real world. It's the school world, and then you have to leave school and learn a different way of coping.
Totally agree with you, Katie.
Yeah, I agree, Greta. What do you got to say about that, Greta?
Well, I love that you spoke up about that, Katie, because and that's what I like about this whole panel here with all you guys, is that and really honing in on this homeschooling topic specifically for me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm just sitting here going, oh, it's like a breath of fresh air, you know, because I'm not so much, I haven't so much been a part of the homeschooling co-ops in my area and stuff like that. I've talked about it or I've looked into it, but I've never really felt the need or the desire really strongly. That's just basically the only reason why I haven't really looked into that so much. We just have our own little thing going here, and the kids, the kids develop their own strategies and their own day and their own, the things that they love to do, and that's never really come up like, oh, I want to go and hang out with some other homeschoolers. Maybe if it did, then I would look into that. Yeah, so basically, I mean, I love also, Carol, what you were talking about, this photography club and all these types of things. I think that's awesome. What a great opportunity for your daughter to be a part of those different things and experience them. For us, our kids are, almost all of them are in dance, and I've got 5 boys and 1 girl, so yes, all the boys are in ballet and jazz and tap and hip hop and musical theater and all of it. They just eat it all up. Like, that is just their life and their passion. And just recently, actually, our oldest has been going through festivals, which are like competitions, and it's really cool. I did that as a child as well, and the competitions were really tough. For me, my personality, just the way I was really shy. I didn't like to compete. I would rather lose to see the other person happy than win and have somebody else feel bad. That was just the way that I was. And for him, it's really nice to see the kids striving for things and reaching their goals. And actually, I don't know if I've mentioned this live before, but our oldest is actually in public school. That's his choice. And what I do like about that is that because he still has a sense of experiencing the homeschool, because almost through his siblings, he sees them and how they are, and I kind of like that. He's still, he's able to make that choice for himself, and he's also able to kind of experience it through them as well, and sees sort of how important it is to, and sees the development of his younger siblings. He's very aware. And my second oldest, he's 9. He was in public school as well for a while, and I pulled him out. He was struggling. There was just some big signs, and he was getting into trouble all the time. He was lying all the time and stealing things, and just like this, it was really tough. And I could tell in his heart he wasn't feeling good. He wasn't being fulfilled in the way he specifically, individually needed to be fulfilled inside, to feel secure in who he was and the choices that he wanted to make. And I tell you, within the first few weeks of bringing him home, he was a happier child, just in his heart. And he really felt loved and was able to actually find that love that he had for himself again. And with time, the lies dwindled, and the stealing dwindled, and the trouble, the things that he was kind of doing that you wouldn't necessarily really desire in your child doing stopped. And I am so happy, and he's so happy to be home. And, you know, he says things like, we are so lucky to be homeschooled. Like, we're like spoiled. It's really, really funny, but it's great. It's great to see both sides of it. And what I like is just the fact that they get to be themselves, because they know at home they're loved for who they are. And when they go outside, it's easier to just be themselves and know, well, you know, like they have that sense of security. And yes, homeschoolers may seem like a little bit different than kids that go to public school. They're able to develop themselves and truly love themselves. And I hear you. Who is that? Who is that talking?
This is Jago. He's telling me that the computer plug has come out.
Uh-oh. Well, good thing you told Mommy.
So he's on the job. He's not disappointing. But I love, Greta, what you just described is children being active participants in their education and having the freedom to make choices. And in that sense, your oldest son, he's not in compulsory education. He's making a choice to be there, which I think is completely different than children who are told you have to get up and you have to go there every day because the state says that you have to go there every day. For me, I love school. If I could be a perpetual student and go and just live at a university and take one class after another, I would do that. I like that. But I don't think that's for everybody, for sure. That's just me. And so I think what you've described is a perfect unschooling example of allowing a child to determine his path in life. So I would say that you're still unschooling your child in that regard because you're leaving the decision to him.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what John Holt, who is like the godfather of unschooling, would say that you are supposed to do. Let your child have a voice and say, you know, let them determine what's the best way for them to learn.
Yeah, awesome. And that's just it. He's so excited every day, you know, to get up and get on the bus, and it gives him that sense of independence, and it fulfills his role as that older sibling in a sense as well, which I think is important. They all have their place in the family, and it's even more so with having as many as we do, as you can experience yourself, Katie, as well, having multiple children in the house, and it's really amazing. And I also do see like a true sense of independence and growth within my kids, and seeing like that they can tackle and handle a lot more responsibility than because they have that time, not because kids that go to public school are any lesser intelligent or any lesser capable. It's that they don't have the time to develop those skills. And really, I think that those life skills are pretty key and important, you know, when they are ready to go off and venture out on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, guys, this topic is really, this is getting really good, because I believe that everything that you guys are talking about plays, the fact that they're home with us and we're able to just invest so much into their self-esteem and to allow them to express themselves and to allow them to think for themselves, that to me is just, I think that's why these children are who they are today. They choose to do certain things, like you know, like you were saying, Greta. You said that to you it's not so much as sticking them into the co-ops and stuff like that, but to you it's more finding out what they enjoy doing and pursuing their passions and then going for that. And that's how they find that whole social whatever it is that they like to do. You know, Katie, you enjoy being in school. You enjoy learning. And all kids, everybody enjoys learning. Everyone. The problem is that we don't enjoy learning what we don't want to learn. You know what I mean? So that's key when it comes to unconventional schooling. You figure out, okay, what is it that you like to do, and let's go for that. And that's where they get that whole socialization thing. So, you know, I wanted you guys to share maybe like a story or something in regards to the socialization and how your children socialize with maybe adults, or how have people maybe reacted to how your children are or whatnot. For example, I'll give you a short story. My son, he's 14 now, my husband, when it was football season, he used to take him to Applebee's. And they would sit there at the bar, and my son at the time, he was like, I think he was like 11 or 12. And, you know, there would be all these men sitting there, you know, with their beards, and they're drinking their beer, and they were talking and laughing and everything, right? So my son would just be sitting there listening into the conversation and whatnot. We were already homeschooling then. And he would just freely just get into the conversation, and he knew how to roll with it. He knew how to engage in the topics that they were talking about. He knew how to challenge these men's thoughts. It wasn't so much so that he was agreeing with everything that they were saying. He was an independent thinker. You know, they were discussing football and how one team is this and the other team is that, and he would challenge, you know, what they were saying, and he was rolling with it. Let me tell you, they would sit there for hours, okay? And these men would just be there. I'd have to call them and be like, what the heck are you guys doing? Are you guys coming home or what? This is Applebee's, okay? And my son was 11, and they would ask my husband, what is up with your kid? Like, you know, what school does he go to? Is he in private school? Is he, you know? And it's funny how we just automatically associate, like, we can't think about it. Like, why would they ask that question? You know? It's sad, honestly, because I feel like children have so much to say, and they should be heard. You know, we all grew up with the mentality of you should only speak when you're spoken to, or you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the adult, and I know what I'm saying, so you need to listen to me, not the other way around. And that's really sad. And we're not like that here. It's like, okay, you speak your mind, we're listening to you, we're all going to come together as a family and talk about what it is that you're thinking and whatnot. But, yeah, you know, and they ask, so is your son in private school or what? No, he's a homeschooler, and homeschooler. So that's one of the stories that I have out of like 100,000. Again, I was so concerned that they were not going to get the social skills that they needed, that they were going to be awkward, and that they were not going to talk to anybody, that they were going to be shy, and I felt like what you were saying, Carol, that we're depriving them of the world around them, and it's so not true. So not true. So what about you, Carol? Tell me a story. Tell me a story of one of your girls.
Well, I think the one that because it just happened last week. Caitlin had gone to, it was really cold, well, it's still cold here, but it was cold last week, but they had an activity, this geocaching activity planned outside of the park. And obviously the warmer it is, the more kids they have, the colder it is, the less kids, and so it ended up being Caitlin and a first grader. And so when I picked her up, or actually her teacher ended up dropping her off at the house because they finished up early, so she just brought her home for us. And she said, I just had a really, really good time today. None of my friends were there, but this first grader, and I don't remember his name, was there, and so I just got to help him, and I just let him find all the caches. You know, he was having such a good time, and I just like seeing the smile on his face. He'd get so excited when we'd find something. So, you know, she's learning, and she loves younger kids anyway. she can't wait till she's old enough to actually go babysit. But she loves younger kids anyway, and just to see her taking that younger child under wing and being so, I don't know what the word is. What word am I looking for? Just, she's not selfish. Being just, her eyes are not on herself, and to be able to see the joy from giving and serving someone else, and it's not a chore. And a lot of times, you know, when you are in a classroom, and you know, we've spent a lot of years in classrooms, so I see the good about both sides of what we're doing. But when you're in a classroom with your peers and the same age, you don't get all of those opportunities to learn how to serve those younger than you, how to be the example, how to show them how to do things. And so I think that's my best example right now of her being able to relate to somebody younger than her and put herself basically in their shoes, because I mean, that was the biggest thing she said was, "It just made me so happy to see how happy he was." You know, so she could really relate to being the younger child and having this older child that was there, and probably almost in that, you know, how we used to idolize when we were in elementary school, we'd idolize all the high schoolers that we knew. You know, that type of position she found herself in last week, and just seeing her reaction to it and the happiness that it brought her to see someone else happy. I don't think she'd have quite that same experience if we were still in the typical public school situation that we have been in the past.
Mm-hmm. I think you make a great point about that, Carol, in terms of the opportunities that are available for that multi-age mixing. Because I know from my teaching experience, for example, in high schools, often, and I did a little bit of work in elementary schools as well, oftentimes there's so many kids that you have to deal with that it's really only the top tier kids who get the privileges of leaving the classroom long enough to go and help, say in the K or the pre-K or the first grade. You know, you have to be getting good grades and behavior and have all these, tick all these other boxes. And so actually, in a lot of ways, some of the kids who would most benefit from being put into a situation where they have to nurture and show humility and be humble and gentle and develop those kinds of skills, they're the ones who are stuck doing more math lessons and doing more spelling word revision because you know, they're not at the top of their class. And the kids who don't need the opportunity to go and be nurturing and all that stuff get to go. And I think that's one of the really sad things about the schooling system is that we make it really, really difficult for kids who need to get more out of school than just spelling words and, you know, A's and B's on their math tests, to develop those social skills of working with other people outside of their own classroom. And it would be great if more kids in school could do what your daughter was able to do. I think that would just be, and I know there are some very progressive schools out there who do have programs like that, but as I said, for the most part, it's targeted at kids who are at the top of their class, who get to leave class, and those who are not or are having a bad day or have behavior problems get stuck and stay there. And they, you know, it's another way of demonstrating to the kids who are for whom school is not generally a success that they're even worse at it than they thought, because not only are they not getting good grades, but now they can't go and do the fun stuff either.
Yeah.
I got another one coming in. So, Katie, tell me like a story or something about your children as far as the socialization and how it's totally not true, and how you've actually seen their development in that area.
Well, you know, I was thinking about this today, and when I was growing up, I only knew one person who was homeschooled, and it happened to be my cousin, and he was the stereotypical strange homeschooled child. But I think that was more I think that had more to do with the fact that he was an only child of older parents. He might have just been a strange person anyway. So I really didn't want to have my kids be that person. But since we've been so here's my story of the benefits of being of the experiences that you can have as a home-educated child. This past December, a lady in our church had asked us to get involved with a nationwide program in England where one of the major supermarkets was going to raise money for the local food banks. So on a Friday, it was still in school. Schools hadn't got out for Christmas yet. My daughter and I and our homeschooling friends from down the street, Sarah and her daughter Penny, they joined us at the supermarket, and we put on these little jumpers, these little aprons that said, Stoke on Trent Food Bank, and we just had to hand out. Essentially, what we were doing is, as people walked into the supermarket, we would give them a shopping list. And all we said was, if you can, buy something off of this list and then drop it off when you're done at the checkout. But my daughter at first found it a real struggle to say, because English people are very shy and retiring. I'm a loudmouth American, so I have no problem going up to people and saying, "Hey y'all, you want to donate to the food bank?" My daughter found that a real struggle because she's not been raised as a loudmouth American. But by the end of it, after 4 hours of standing, in the doors of the supermarket, she was like throwing those shopping lists at everybody, and her friend, they were having a grand time talking to people, and of course, people wanted to know what they were doing. It was Friday, school wasn't out yet, and they developed a lot of confidence talking to people coming into the supermarket, explaining who they were, what they were doing, why they were there, and at the end of the day, they just felt really empowered. Just from a simple exercise of in the middle of the week, standing in the supermarket, doing some charity, some volunteer work. That stuck with them for quite a long time. She didn't want to go. I dragged her kicking and screaming to that activity. And when we left, she goes, "I had a lot of fun." And she talked to a lot of people, which was just great. And she did herself really, really proud. So that's my little story.
That's awesome. I'm telling you, man, we can go on and on and on with this. What about you, Greta? I mean, what's up with your little village, and how do they socialize? How have you seen them engage and interact with people, and what are the responses that some people have given you? Share a story.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I can relate to a lot of different things here, and especially with older kids interacting with younger kids, and with mine, because the older ones do have little ones around at home. They tend to really resonate and sort of it's like they're magnets for the little ones when they go out, because I guess the little ones sense that they're safe, that they can go to them, and it's really cute. We were at the swimming pool just this past weekend, and it's funny because we were all sitting there. We brought all this big, huge potluck at the pool there, and we were all eating our meal. And then we noticed there was this little one, this cute little girl, just learning how to walk, running around behind us and everything. And everybody, all the kids were like, "Did you see her? Did you see her, Mommy? Did you see her?" Just pointing her out. And then my 2-year-old went over and started really interacting with her and just gently touching her face. And it's instinctively, it's there in all of us, I believe. And when you see a little one, even when you're still a little one, you know that you need to be gentle, you need to be soft with them. And yeah, I can totally relate to what you were saying, actually, Lena, about your son conversing with these burly men, and at Applebee's, and being able to carry on conversations, because that is what my kids do, and they really they really kind of yearn for those conversations, when we're out at events and stuff, and there are kids but then there's adults as well, and they hear these adult conversations going on. They want to be there. They want to be interacting. They want to be talking with them as well. And the reactions sometimes honestly aren't always positive, because the adults aren't used to it. They're kind of like, what? Like, why are you talking? Or like, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't really understand and have an equal conversation with us. And really, they actually can. They're just not used to it. They're not used to kids having the confidence to come in there and talk. They're used to seeing kids, do kid things and stuff like that. When I think that a lot of times our children in society are dulled down, like in our society, in our communities, because they're just, not that I want to take away from childhood, but the thing is that kids are so much more capable than we give them credit for. Like, my kids, they all know how to cook. Maybe I don't let them do it all the time because they stop cleaning up after themselves, and I was like, okay, you want to cook, you got to clean. And I gave them so many choices, and then I was like, okay, no more. But they do. They know how to cook themselves food. They know how to cook meals for everybody. And, it's just, there's like so much fear in that. And I think if you have a loving environment at home, whether your kids are doing, laundry and cleaning and doing chores around the house, it doesn't mean that you're taking away from their childhood. I mean, the things that take away from kids' childhoods are more than that. Problems at home between parents and things like that are bigger burdens that they're involved in. Like, and I'm speaking from experience of being raised in my family. I really felt that I didn't have so much of a childhood because I was worried about the bigger problems at home all the time and so consumed with that. And now I'm going off on a tangent here, but I do see a difference with my kids interacting and being out there in the world, and I see people reacting in positive ways and in negative ways, and that's with anything. I mean, maybe they just don't like kids.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you never know. And again, it's also the old school way of thinking, and you grow up thinking a certain way, and it was just like Katie was saying, as adults, you gotta sometimes unlearn things. And let me tell you, because of how I was socialized when I was a kid, coming into the business that we're all in, the Empower Network, I've had to really unschool myself. So with the books and whatnot that I've been reading, I've learned how to be more, I wouldn't say more appropriately, because I don't know if that's the correct way, but I've learned how to communicate in an appropriate way, whereas before I was stuck in just my own box, in my own world, thinking people are going to judge me, and once I open my mouth, what I say has no weight to it. It was really, really bad. So that's my last question. That's what I want to end with today. How has the Empower Network empowered you, and how has it trickled down into your children? For example, I'll just give a quick story. Once I started to become an entrepreneur, I took my son to an event with me, and my husband, he bought him a journal, right? And he was just, I love him. I was so proud of him. He came with me, and he was my date and my bodyguard. So as they're talking, and it was a 3-day event, and we were there, and as they were talking, my son was taking notes. My son was taking notes. And he came back from that event so inspired and so empowered that his leadership skills, his communication, the way he thinks for himself, it's just, I'm in awe. I really am in awe, and I can thank the world of entrepreneurship, the freedompreneur. I can thank that. So not only has it taught me to really go out there and talk to people and let people know, hey, listen, there are other options out there, just like in homeschooling or the unconventional schooling. There are other options when it comes to making money. So what are some ways that the business has empowered you and it has trickled down into your children? Share with me, Katie.
Okay, I always have to unmute myself so you can't hear the chaos that's going on right now. I think for me, the biggest change in mindsets for me that is trickling down to my kids is the idea of becoming independence and entrepreneurialism. I was probably the most invested person in the system I'm textbook person who believed in the system. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, then get a professional career going, follow the system, and everything will fall into line. And actually, that's not. I've learned over the last couple of years that having the freedom, just a second, mate, the freedom to make your own choices and chart your own path. I struggled for a lot of years with my oldest son, who's he'll be 23 at the end of the month, and he's a really intelligent kid, but he was the kid who, when I went to my first parent-teacher conference when he was in kindergarten, they sat me down and they said, oh, Katie, we have to have a chat with you about your son. He's very bright, but he's too chatty and he doesn't work hard enough. If he just applied himself more, he could do great things. And I heard that at every parent-teacher conference until he left school. He was very bright, but if he would just try harder. The truth, and I tried really hard to get him to follow my path, which was to go to university and get a professional career going. And actually, all he wants to do is play music. I stuck a guitar in his hand when he was 12, and he hasn't really put it down since. And he started showing me the example of following your own path and following your true path and not paying attention to what people say you're supposed to do. And then through the business, being exposed to so many other people who have that same mindset of follow your own path. You don't have to, the conventional way of doing things, of schooling children, of earning money is not necessarily the right way or the only way, that you have to forge your own path. And that's the path to true emotional and spiritual and physical and economic freedom. And now I get to pass that on. I learned it the hard way through my son ignoring me as his mom. I was exposed to so many hundreds of other people who were doing it successfully that I was able to reflect on that experience with my son and say, oh, I get what he's doing now, and he's doing something so amazing. And he's moving to LA in a couple of weeks, and he's got 2 albums that he's recorded, and he's having a fabulous time as a musician. And now we are on this amazing road trip because I changed my mindset that said you don't have to be a lawyer working in a big high-rise law firm, and doing all those conventional things. That actually you can have a freedom lifestyle and like I said, true emotional and spiritual freedom through an unconventional life, and it's a very fulfilling way of life. And I can hand that on to my younger kids and not have any of those expectations for them, except that they will find what they want to do in life and then go forth and do that, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, the whole, I know it sounds, kind of like fairy tale-ish. Follow your dream. What is it what is your passion? Whatever it is that you really love to do, go do it. And like, seriously, don't believe that you can't. If that's what you love to do, go get it done.
And not have a plan B. There was only plan A.
Right, exactly.
So it's plan A, and plan A. Never plan B or C, just plan A.
Exactly. And, that's why I really, truly love, that's why I love what Empower Network stands for. I love the name Empower because so many people are using that as a means to replace their income, the income that they have now, and then to go and follow their dreams and do what it is that they want to do. Seriously, you know. So, what about? Thank you so much, Katie. That was awesome, and I look forward to listening to some of his music. Whoever's out there watching, you guys get with Katie. And,
I'm going to post a video from YouTube. I'm going to post one of his videos. It's going on tonight.
We got some fans up in here. We will be up in there, you know, in his concert with his name, and we'll look like those crazy moms and woo!
Crazy mom.
Right. Thank you so much, Katie. That's awesome. That's awesome. We applaud your son, man. And what about you, Greta? What are some of the ways that the Empower Network has empowered you and it has trickled down into your children?
Oh, so many ways. It's been an incredible journey so far, and I think one of the things that stand out the most for me is what it has done for me on the inside and how I feel about myself. Before I started this journey, I struggled a lot with my self-worth and how I looked at myself, what I felt about myself, and what I thought and believed I was capable of. And just being a part of this community has completely shifted that for me. I actually, speaking about this, I was today just looking back at a couple of pictures and sort of big, huge breakthrough moments that I've had since being a part of this community, being a part of the Empower Network. That has just reminded me of my growth and how far I have come. And I think as a mom and being the biggest, most impactful person and influence in my kids' lives, there's no better way than to really hone in on the power, on the true power of yourself and purpose and belief that you have in who you are and why you're here, and really valuing that and embracing it and feeding your soul. And God, it's just so much more. It's just so much more than a business, and I'm forever changed for it. And it has, because of that, my kids are able to see how important it is to value themselves, to nurture themselves, to believe in themselves, because I do now. So.
That's beautiful, Greta. I love your energy. You're so endearing. Carol, bless us with your wisdom. How has the community of the Empower Network and their teachings and the stuff that you've learned and what you've been doing, how has that affected your life, and how has that affected your children's lives?
Well, it has really helped. Being a part of Empower has really helped me find my voice. And some of you may have heard this before, but we reached a point about almost 2 years ago when I turned 42. We had just moved back to the community that we're in now, and my husband, we decided to have a birthday party. It was my birthday, and we decided to have a party so that we could get to know some of the people better that we were involved with at our church. And a friend of ours called one day while I was gone and asked my husband, you know, I want to make Carol's birthday cake. What's her favorite color? And Caitlin, our daughter, and Carl were here, and they said, well, I think it's purple. And so when I got home, they asked me what my favorite color was, and I said, I don't know. And I really can't tell you, but purple sounds good, so we'll just go with that. And I realized that after so many years, I went from high school, and I wouldn't change a thing about our life, but I went from high school to a semester of college, and I lived with another family, some really close friends of ours, straight into marriage between semesters our freshman year of college. So I have never lived on my own. I was 37 before I ever stayed in a hotel room by myself. So I realized that I went from being someone's daughter to being someone's wife, and then a year and a half after I was someone's wife, I was somebody's mom, and then I was 2 kids' mom, and then I was 3 kids' mom, and then I was a pastor's wife, and I was never really Carol. I got so, I threw myself into every other role that I played, that I never really let my own voice of what I want to do and what I like come out. So being a part of Empower has really helped me figure out, my favorite color really is purple, you know, and just that I have a voice and I can think outside the box of being a wife and being a mom. I can think as Carol, a 43-year-old woman who's got 1 son already gone and is going to have to figure out in about 6 years how not to be a full-time mom anymore. You know, so I'm really blessed that I'm starting that journey, I think, earlier than most do, of really figuring out who I am and what I particularly want. So, and I'm watching that filter down into my kids as well. My husband has started taking each one of them out separately every week on their, just for one-on-one time. And so a lot of the things that we are learning ourselves with the different books that we're reading and the audios that we listen to, our son, who's still at home, is a real quiet. He's very quiet. He's just very even keel. A lot of times I think something is wrong, and he's perfectly fine. What's wrong, Colin? I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. Why are you asking? You know, so he's just my low emotion kid. But he's learning boldness and how to really let his opinion out and to be strong and to be bold in what he thinks. And you know, the saying, a lot of us have said that boldness gets rewarded. So that's what we're teaching him through a lot of, you know, and that's kind of the journey that I've been on, is how probably a year ago I could not have sat on a hangout with you guys. That is how quiet I was, how unsure of myself I was. So a lot of what I'm learning is filtering down into our kids.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Greta, you raised your hand. I raised my hand. The only one that didn't was Katie. Katie's like, girl, I've been in college, and I could sit there and I could speak my mind all day long. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you know, it's awesome. It is awesome. We've all gone through amazing transformation with the Empower Network, and it has opened up so many doors for us. And we invite you guys who are watching now, we invite you guys to connect with us. We will be here every Tuesday, God willing. But yeah, we will be here every Tuesday to empower you and to inform you guys that there are other ways out there, not just with homeschooling and unschooling and road schooling, but also other ways to create an income and to spend that time with your family and to really do the things that you love to do, which is inspire other people. So we definitely believe in you. We know that you guys have a voice. We know that you guys have a story. And we know that there is so much in you and that you probably don't even know yourself. So get with one of us. Definitely get with one of us. We will leave the links below on the bottom of this video. Listen, these women have stories upon stories upon stories, and we have just gotten started, y'all. Y'all don't even know, okay? You haven't even seen the videos probably of these events that we go to, and I'm so excited to see all of these ladies. I'm excited to hug them and to just be with them and shoot a video and send it to you guys and say, hey guys, look, you know, come be a part of what we have here. It's something huge, and it's definitely life-changing. So get with one of us, and yeah, we're going to leave this the way that it is. It's just been truly inspiring to be here with all of you ladies. We miss you, Kimberly, but we know you're out there right now in your little Renaissance thing going on there. So that's pretty cool. Take some videos, girl, and put it up on YouTube. So we want to see that. And listen, Katie, also
Yes.
put your son's video up there as well. And Carol, we love you. Keep inspiring, girlfriend, because you got a lot to say. And Greta, just peace to you, girl. Peace. I love your energy. You're so cool. All right, ladies, so we'll wrap this up. Guys, connect, like I said, and we will see you next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Beijo.